What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the Pika Pika Papa, and today we're going to be doing a deep dive into Scarlet and Violet in the top 20 singles cards and how they've been moving month over month. And if you follow this channel at all, you know that this is a regular series. We do it every month, and we've been doing this type of series for a very long time. I started aggregating data like this all the way back in September of 2023. I have it for the Sword and Shield era, I have it for the Scarlet and Violet era, I have it for the Sun and Moon era, I have it for the XY era, and now I'm going to have it for the Mega Series. And so the goal of all of this is to have this large repository of different data points. So when the market starts to do what it's doing today, where we're starting to see singles cards soften a little bit, we're even starting to see some booster box and sealed products come down in terms of pricing. The most valuable tool that we can have in our tool belt is identifying patterns that have happened in the past that are very similar to what's happening in the present. There is no set rule. I don't have a crystal ball. There's no guarantee that they're going to follow the exact same pattern one for one. But I'm telling you right now, having those learnings, having those understandings from the past gives us such an advantage when it comes to picking when the best time might be to spend our money in this incredible hobby that we all love so much. So what I'm going to share with you right here is if you look on the screen in front of you, on the left-hand side, this is Scarlet and Violet and the aggregate value of the top 20 singles cards from every single set, including specialty sets. For Scarlet and Violet, I included specialty sets. So for every single set up until Journey Together. Now, next month we'll include Destined Rivals, but I want a set to be at least 6 months old before I add it in here. So this is up to Journey Together. And what this does is it represents how the overall kind of market has been heading in terms of the Scarlet and Violet space. But what's really interesting is if you look to the right, that is what the top 20 singles cards, their aggregate value for the booster boxes in the Sword and Shield era, have been doing over the exact same period of time. So if you think about it, Sword and Shield, 12 sets with booster boxes, top 20 cards, 240 total cards, again, represents how the overall market is moving in terms of that generation. And as you can see, the exciting thing for me is you have Sword and Shield and you have Scarlet and Violet, which have truly been moving in lockstep. Now, if you'll look at the Scarlet and Violet, the month-over-month changes are more volatile. Higher spikes up, lower spikes down, right? And that's because it's much newer. So you are going to expect that type of volatility with a newer generation. But the biggest takeaway for me, and the awesomest learning of all, is that these two incredible generations with incredible cards and artwork and just some really big sets have truly been moving in lockstep. So what we can do is we can take some learnings from the past in terms of Sword and Shield, and we can apply that to Scarlet and Violet now. Now, the big thing that we're going to talk about throughout the course of this video is I am going to dial in on 5 specific sets, okay? And then we're going to look at 10 specific cards. And the reason that I'm going to do that, it's a little bit different than what I normally do, is what I have found in the past is that when the market goes through these softening periods, it is kind of blind. You know what I mean? All sets tend to go down. All cards tend to go down. So what happens is you have these incredibly awesome sets that we all know are going to do phenomenal in the long run. We have these incredible cards with big name Pokemon with epic art that we know 5 years from now are going to be worth way more than they are today. But for whatever reason, the market doesn't spare them from the carnage, right? They continue to drop just like the others. So throughout the course of this video, we're going to focus on the 5 big sets that at least I consider the big sets from the Scarlet and Violet era. We're going to talk about some of their big cards, some of the patterns that we're seeing, and hopefully we're going to learn a lot. Now, with that being said, as you can see, we put a ton of work into these videos. We've been aggregating data since 2023 to bring you the best information possible. So if you find value in it, if you're having fun, hit that subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. Those 2 small things go such a long way in helping my small channel out, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. So with that out of the way, let's start looking at how what I consider to be kind of the 5 big sets from the Scarlet and Violet era and how they performed month over month. So as you will see right here, it was a literal bloodbath. I think out of all of these, so you have 5 sets. These are the top 20 cards. So you have 100 cards here. And I think we have, you know, probably 10, 12 cards here where they were actually up month over month, really universally across the board. Almost all of them are down. So again, these are what I consider to be the big sets. Destined Rivals, I think, is a no-brainer. Prismatic Evolutions is obviously a no-brainer. Pokemon 151. And then I think Paldea Evolved is probably in the upper echelon as well. And if I had to pick another one, I personally go with Surging Sparks. Obviously, I'm a huge Pikachu guy. You have that awesome Chase Pikachu card in there. So Surging Sparks is that. So if I were to sit here and say these are the sets that I think are going to have a very, very bright future, these are the ones that I'm looking at. And I literally lick my chops. I get so excited when I see this happen month over month because I know traditionally the drops don't just happen in 1 month chunks. If you saw the Sword and Shield video that we did on last Friday, you saw that what usually happens is they form these support lines over a period of time, right? So usually the market will drop for a couple months, it'll start to flatten out a little bit, and when we see that flattening out, that's when I start to get really excited. But this at least is a very, very exciting starting point for us to understand that there could be some awesome cards to purchase at some really approachable prices here relatively soon. Now, the singles cards that we're going to look at, and the reason I want to talk about these is because for me, it is very, very important to understand these one-year price charts. I think that is one of the most important things for us to understand, because if you look at the Charizard right there, the Charizard, look at all the volatility over the last year. Look at the peak, then look at the valley and the trough, and then look at the peak again, and now it's working its way back down. And I have that black line drawn across because if you were to buy that Charizard today from 151, which we all know is going to go down in history as one of the greatest Pokemon sets in recent memory, this amazing artwork of this awesome character in Charizard, you're literally buying it at January 2025 prices right now, and it will more than likely continue to drop a little bit further into the future. The other thing is, look at how far it has fallen in the past. I mean, this card, again, we're talking 6 short months ago, this card was in the $200 range. On this channel, I just kept saying this is absolutely lunacy when you think about the price that this card was going for 6 months ago. Now, listen, there are some downsides to this card. The pull rate in 151 for these special illustration rares is very favorable. There is going to be no shortage of Charizard cards like this from 151 out there in the wild. However, I firmly believe that it will be able to kind of, I don't know, transcend that, because the set is so big, the character's so big, the artwork's so amazing. But still, I thought it was a really interesting thing to call out right here. And then when you look at the Blastoise, again, I've been beating the drum of, listen, there's going to be multiple cards in 151 that are going to be over the $100 price point in the future. When that future point might be, I don't necessarily know, but I love this Blastoise card. Again, you're buying this at like November, December 2024 prices. And here we are, 2025, 151 is well over 2 years old at this point. I promise you, we're going to start seeing far, far fewer of this product available out there in the wild, and these restocks, whenever you hit that 2-year mark, for whatever reason, it starts to absolutely crater in terms of secondary market availability. So as that happens, just keep an eye on these cards. And again, the same thing with the volatility, but man, I love the fact that you can get this card well under $100, coming in at about $75 today, right where you would have paid a year ago almost in November, December 2024. Absolutely wild. I love when the market does stuff like this. And again, just because these are the prices now, I'm not necessarily saying you should go out and run out and buy them right now. I would keep an eye on these. They could continue to drop further, which would represent only a better opportunity. Now, why do I think they might continue to drop further? Well, we are seeing something that we have not seen. Now, remember, I talked about the volatility like 3 times already, but I want you to ingrain that in your skulls as we click over to the next slide, because that's what's going to be one of our main talking points. So as you can see on this slide, I have green lines that run parallel and that kind of magenta line that goes downward and to the right. When I am taking a look at how the market is doing just overall in terms of a health perspective, I care less about price, but that green line to me represents average buying and selling volume on TCG players. So if you look at the Charizard card where that green line goes across, you'll see that, yeah, there's some spikes and valleys and all of that, but overall, for the most part, the buying volume for that Charizard from 151 was relatively consistent for most of the year. However, if you look at that magenta line going downwards and to the right there, the buying volume for that card has slowed considerably. Yes, the holidays are coming up. I'm sure people are spending a lot of money on other things, but for me, that indicates that what we're seeing right now might not be a flash in the pan. We might actually see this continue to go on, because as sales volume continues to drop, people who want to sell these cards to make money off of them, they get more aggressive with pricing because they want theirs to be the ones that sell versus everybody else's. So you don't have TCG player just lined up with 5,000 copies of this card. People are competing in terms of listing and pricing because they want to get sold. And you see the exact same pattern for that Blastoise right there. Matter of fact, it is even more defined. If you look at that green line, very consistent buying and selling volume all the way through the up, all the way through the down, all the way through the beginning of that second up. But now when it's starting to come back down on this side, again, look at that, the buying and selling volumes dropping considerably. So that is very, very important stuff for us to understand when we're trying to get a finger on what's going on here in the market. Next ones we're going to look at right here. Now, these are 2 cards that I think are very cool, and I think they're certainly worth talking about because they are fundamentally different than what we saw on the other 2. So this is the Magikarp, this is the Tyranitar. Obviously, you know I'm low-key obsessed with Paldea Evolved, but when you look at them right there, the Tyranitar is coming down. It's actually starting to flatten out, but it is still up above any price point that it was at prior to this last price spike. Now, you see that really light blue bar graph that shoots straight up there. Obviously, that represents a buyout or group of people who are buying a bunch of cards at one time on TCG Player. Price spikes up, price is working its way back down. It does seem like it's starting to settle right in the $60 price price point range, which is very interesting. Same thing with the Magikarp. It is coming down nicely. It does not look like it's flattening out as far as I'm concerned, and I've looked at these graphs a lot over the last 3 years. It looks like it's still continuing to work its way down. It looks like it's trying to find its way below the previous all-time high peak before we went to this one where it was just absolutely crazy when it got all the way up to $400. Now we're going to do the exact same exercise here. So we're going to switch over to these green and magenta bars. And as you can see, the Magikarp, it didn't just slow down. The buying and selling volume on that Magikarp literally fell off a cliff. Like, I didn't even make it an angled line down. I just drew a flat bar because, I mean, we're talking about where we went from a period where there was 13, 14, 15 of these, sometimes, you know, maybe 20 sold per week. And now we're seeing single digits of these cards that have been exchanging hands over the last couple of weeks. That is a very, very big takeaway. And that's the same thing with that Tyranitar. As you can see, the selling volume is starting to come back down. So very important stuff that we need to keep an eye on. Next two cards that we're going to talk about right here. So you know that I love Surging Sparks, and when I think about Surging Sparks right now, I'm going to do a video on this in the future, so I don't want to give it all away, but the fact that you can buy Surging Sparks booster boxes right now for at the exact same or even a little bit lower than Scarlet Violet base set booster boxes right now absolutely blows my mind. You have this Pikachu, which is showing some resiliency. That was one of the reasons I wanted to talk about this, is we were watching all those other cards up until this point really start to aggressively drop in terms of pricing. But you get the Pikachu card right here, which is really trying to hold its water north of $300. Now, a couple more months of softness, and I think this card is going to do what everything else is doing, and it's going to come down. So don't be surprised if it gets to that 300 or even breaks that $300 price point. But it is at least showing some resistance here at $320. And the same thing with the Latias up there. That's a $167 card. And again, you have two of these awesome cards, one over 150, one over 300, and the booster boxes are selling for less than or the exact same price as Scarlet Violet base set, which again just makes absolutely no sense. I would be backing the dump truck up for Surging Sparks booster boxes if I didn't already have two cases of them. But really cool cards, and again, showing a little bit. The Latias is starting to come down in price a little bit, and if you look at the buying and selling volume, it's starting to come down a little bit, not as aggressively as the others. But remember, Surging Sparks is just hitting the 1-year mark. It came out in November of 2024. So we're at the 1-year mark here of Surging Sparks now. So again, still a lot of product to come into the wild, still a lot of this to be open, still a lot of these cards to come out. But it is interesting for me to see a little bit of resiliency here. Next ones that we're going to talk about right here, Destined Rivals. And Destined Rivals has been a very, very sneaky set as far as I'm concerned in this regard. We all knew it was going to be great. We all had a very strong feeling that it was going to be the biggest regular series set of the Scarlet and Violet era, and it hasn't disappointed. It absolutely is. But what I've been surprised about is how strong the single cards have come out, but been able to maintain too, right? Like a lot of times we have this pop and drop where they come out, the cards come up really high, and then they immediately drop down. But if you look at that Mewtwo card there on the left-hand side, and again, this is a newer set, so we only are looking at a 6-month graph because it wouldn't do any good to look at a 1-year graph because the set hasn't been out for a year. But when you look at that 6-month graph there, you can see that it came out right in the 350 range, worked its way up to 370, 380, then it spiked. You remember when its thing spiked up to like $600, and it actually maintained that level for a while. Now it's starting to work its way down, but again, it's starting to find support just south of $500. Now, the beautiful thing about this being a 6-month chart is you can really see how the buying volume has slowed down. You can see maybe a month and a half, 2 months ago, we were right there in that 20 cards per week volume where the cards were exchanging, not a ton, but at a very decent clip. And as you can see over the last couple weeks, it has really, really started to diminish in terms of the buying and selling volume. So that's a big takeaway. And the same thing with that Cynthia's Garchomp up there, right? That's the number 2 card in the set. And this card, again, selling volume is coming down a little bit, but showing a ton of resiliency, holding on at that $258 price point. Now, as I said earlier, just to reiterate, I think the market's going to stay soft for a couple of months. That's at least what we've seen in the past. So don't be surprised if these cards aren't just lagging a little bit to the broader market, because I do think that, as I said in the beginning, for whatever reason, when cards go down, we like to bring everything down with it, even the ones that are awesome. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on these over the next couple months. And that's it. Those are the ones that we're talking about right here. So I thought it was really, really cool to talk about them. I thought it'd be really, really cool to kind of highlight some of these cards and how they've been performing. And, you know, I think that there's a very unique opportunity that is going to present itself to us here in the near future. I think that we're going to see some awesome cards, and I think we're going to see them at some really affordable price points, or at least affordable compared to where they were in the past. If you watched a lot of these chase cards, we went through this incredible growth period where cards were just hitting these ridiculous all-time highs, and now they're starting to come down in unsettle. So if you saw the Sword and Shield video that I did, a lot of times we have these defined support lines. That's what I'm going to be looking for. Part of my job is to make sure I highlight that for you when it happens. So listen, if you enjoyed it, if you want some insight when it comes to that happening, I promise I'll bring it to you ASAP. I hope you had fun. I hope you enjoyed the content. And if you did, hit that subscribe button or give us a thumbs up. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Most of all, have an epic rest of your day, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Bye.